The Miami Dolphins 2025 schedule is released from game one all the way through to week 18. The Dolphins try to figure out how to finally put it all together and not just make the playoffs, but actually get a playoff win this year. We're going to do our first deep dive into this schedule, and I've got 5 specific questions that I am curious about regarding this team going into the year. And then stay tuned to the end. We're going to take all of your questions and answers about the Dolphins or any other team that you like and follow. Tell me what you've seen. I've only gotten a chance to do a really brief look into this, so that's why we're going to dive in here together. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to MetropoliFins. We are YouTube's smallest New York Mets and Miami Dolphins channel. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. My name is Craig. As you come on in, whether you're watching live or on replay, please hit that like and hit that subscribe. So we're going to start first by actually running through this schedule. You can see, hopefully it's large enough for you on the screen, so let me know if you can't see it for any reason, but hopefully it is big enough for you to be able to see on your screen. We're going to go through both the home, the away games. Some of these are primetime games. They're all kind of labeled here. So we're going to run through it, and we'll just kind of go through the schedule first, then I'll give you some of my initial reactions, then questions that I have regarding the Dolphins in this 2025 season's coming up. Week 1, September 7th at the Indianapolis Colts. So the Dolphins will start on the road for week 1. Week 2 will be September 14th versus the Patriots at home. That will be their home opener. The following week on short rest, going from that Sunday to the Thursday night football game, will be at the Buffalo Bills. Again, we'll break down kind of my initial thoughts. That's followed the next week by hosting the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. So you've got back-to-back primetime games, week 3, week 4. Week 5 will be at the Carolina Panthers, followed by week 6 hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. Week 7, they will be at the Cleveland Browns. Week 8 hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Week 9 will be against the Baltimore Ravens, again at home, but also in prime time on Thursday night football. Again, some of these maybe can be flexed out, but the Thursday night football games are generally set, and so are the Monday nights. Just generally the Sundays that can be flexed out, especially late in the season. Week 10 will be hosting the Buffalo Bills. That'll be November 9th, November 16th versus the Washington Commanders, but that is technically a home game, but it is officially in Madrid, Spain, the first NFL game ever to be played in Spain. Of course, as is usual with these, the game over in Europe will be followed by their bye. So it's like, yes, it's a bye, but you're already extra tired. When it comes to that, November 30th for week 13 will be home against the Saints, followed by December 7th at the Jets. December 15th is Monday Night Football at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, you're not imagining this. There are 4 Monday and Thursday night games, 2 Thursday night games, 2 Monday night games scheduled for the Miami Dolphins. And then on top of that, the next week, they are scheduled to host the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday Night Football. That's a game that can be flexed out, but as of right now, that is the Thursday Night Football game for week 16. And then week 17 will be home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then either January 3rd or 4th at the New England Patriots. Again, lots of flexing available there. Good evening to you, Red Man. Your dad's team is the Jets. Good evening, Casey. Hope you're doing well. All right, so that is the initial schedule. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on this. A couple overarching thoughts before we dive in to some of the specifics on the games. First of all, probably the most disappointing part for me is there's only 2 daytime home games for the Dolphins in the first 2 months of the season. Maybe there's a third one. Let's see. There might be a third one. I guess there's maybe 3. No, there's just 2. Okay, so they have one home day game, which is the week 2, September 14th against the Patriots. But they're on the road, home day game, on the road, home night game, on the road, home day game, which is week 6, October 12th versus the Chargers, then on the road, then on the road, then home, but it's a night game. And then their next and their third home day game is week 10, November 9th against the Bills. And so The reason on that specifically is just because the Dolphins actually do have a bit of a home field advantage early in the season in Miami when it's hot, and yet the NFL just feels like they don't want to give the Dolphins any sort of thing like that. So that's why part of the reason why I put that in the title here is, does the NFL actually hate Miami to only give them 2 home day games when they actually have a home field advantage? Now, you can make the argument that going to Buffalo early in the season is also an advantage, not have to go there in the cold and the snow. But honestly, the Dolphins need to learn how to win in the cold and the snow, and they get some late season, specifically that Pittsburgh Steelers Monday Night Football on December 15th. That's going to most likely be a cold game there as well. So that was part of my initial reaction. Secondly, it's a bummer that the game against the Commanders ends up being the Madrid game, because basically it neutralizes any home field advantage the Dolphins might have against an up-and-coming team. And yes, Jaden Daniels is looking to be an emerging quarterback, but there's no guarantee that you can't necessarily get to him and get him rattled. And, it's like these games over across the seas and these Europe games, they should not be really considered as home games. I've mentioned this before. I would like to see every team go to, at least under the current schedule, 8 home games, 8 away games, and 1 neutral site game. I think that would be much better. And then these European games can all be neutral site games. Alas, it counts as a home game for the Dolphins, but we basically lose our home field advantage. Good evening, Midnight. Hello again to you as well. Okay, so those are a couple of my thoughts. Now we're going to break this down. We did this a couple weeks ago, and then I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask for the Dolphins, and then we will take your questions. All right, so week 1, September 7th at the Indianapolis Colts. I feel like there is a chance this is, if I'm going to have a road game, of all the road games we have scheduled, this is one that I don't mind. I feel like this is a good opportunity for the Dolphins to come out and try to steal a road win. I do feel like having Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle all back together and consistently, I feel like that's a good opportunity for this team to be able to come out strong early in the season while maybe other teams are struggling here. So we're gonna go ceiling for the Dolphins in this. Okay, I'm gonna say, like, if everything goes our way. So our ceiling here would be 1-0, because I do think that is a winnable game here for that. That's followed up the next week by a home game versus the Patriots. This is September 14th. It's while it's still hot. I guess I can put it all on the same line here. So I'm going to say that the ceiling of this is definitely a win. Okay, the ceiling here is a winnable game. All right, week 3, September 18th at the Bills on Thursday Night Football. The only thing that is going for the Dolphins in this game is the fact that we're going to Buffalo in September. That is the only thing that we have. That being said, unless I see something crazy emerge or develop out of Dolphins camp, I think there is zero chance that we win this game. The Mets, I'm sorry, just did a Mets streak. The Dolphins are horrible in prime time, and they're horrible at Buffalo. And it's not just, they haven't won a game against the Buffalo Bills, not just in Buffalo, against Buffalo at all. They haven't won a game against the Bills since 2022, and I don't expect it to possibly happen at this point in time this season. All right. Follow that up. Their week 4 game, their week 4 matchup is September 29th against the Jets. That is at home. And I will say that there are worlds where we can win this game, not so much because of the prime time, but just because it's the Jets and because it's a home game. I do think generally each year that you can kind of expect a split on these Dolphins-Jets games, and the Dolphins are more likely to win the home. I don't ever feel comfortable playing in prime time. It just feels like anytime that it's a prime time game, it's just guaranteed disappointment. So I might as well make good food for myself and enjoy it. But I do think there is a ceiling here where the Dolphins can win. So we're just projecting a ceiling season. This is not projecting the actual result of these games, just projecting a ceiling season here for the Dolphins if everything were to go their way. All right. Week 5 is at the Carolina Panthers. I do think that this is a ceiling game where the Dolphins could win. It seems like it's the type of game where it's early enough in the year. It's not super far from home. And one of the notable things is that the Dolphins do not go super far west this year. They do some travel, but they don't go super far west. And in fact, I think because um, Cleveland is Eastern time zone. I don't believe that the Dolphins leave the Eastern time zone for the entire schedule this season, other than when they go to Madrid. So I think every single game they play, because Indianapolis time zone too, I believe, is also Eastern. Yes. So I believe Cleveland, Indianapolis, that's the farthest west that the Dolphins have to travel. And that might be the one kind of hidden gem in this schedule overall, is that ceiling season. Ceiling season for the Dolphins. By the way, any one of these games the Dolphins can lose. Okay, so I think the floor season for the Dolphins is probably 5 wins. Um, you know, and I think realistically, I still would have them projected in that 7 to 8 wins. But I'm just trying to say, like, what is the possibility if everything could break the right way here for them? Um, the other part of this Dolphins schedule that does play in their favor is there is an opportunity to get on a roll here. Um, you could possibly see a ceiling game here where the Dolphins could beat the Chargers in week 6. It's going to only be their 3rd home game of the season, only their 2nd day game. But I'm just finding it hard to believe that this Chargers team is not going to keep improving under Harbaugh. I'm just a firm believer in Harbaugh. I think he is the right coach for that job, and I would expect if it was like week 1, maybe we could surprise the Chargers. Now, I don't know who the Chargers play the week before, so if they had back-to-back East Coast games, let me check that really quick, because I might be able to give them a ceiling here. If let's see who the Chargers play and where do the Chargers play. They're home against the Commanders the week before. So, yeah, so if the Commanders beat them, they're going to come out really ticked off. So, yeah, I'm gonna stick with that projection for now. Vitalik, how's it going? I'm gonna stick with a loss there, even in the CL. I just don't. I think with the continual improving of the Chargers with Harbaugh, yeah, and they're not coming off of another like East Coast trip. They should be fully rested, relatively speaking. It's early enough in the season. All right, week 7. Since we're projecting a ceiling season for the Dolphins at Cleveland. Again, the benefit here is they're going on the road to a cold weather environment, but early, so it's not going to be brutally cold. So I do think that is a winnable game. And then that's going to be followed by week 8, which is also, I believe, a winnable game. Again, I'm not projecting that the Dolphins are going to win all these games, just that they could in their, in the best case scenario season that I can imagine. All right. And that is most likely going to be, there's one of 2 things that are going to happen at this point in time in the season. Either the Dolphins are going to be something like 5-3 or 6-2, or they're going to be something like 3-5 or 2-6. If they're 3-5 and 2-6 going this next stretch, the season is over. If they're like 6-2, it's going to be everybody talking about, wow, the Dolphins are off to a good start, but can they beat good teams? Because honestly, this is as soft of an opening schedule as you could hope for. There's only really one team that I would expect to blow out the Dolphins, which is that game at Buffalo. I think the Mets, again, still transitioning from Mets to Dolphins. I think the Dolphins should be competitive in all of these games. I think the only one that they probably don't win, other than the Bills game, aren't realistically going to have a shot to win, is the Chargers game. So 6-2 is possible, but then the reality of their schedule hits, and so I think the Dolphins need to be 6-2 after 8 weeks, or else their season's over. All right. Again, we're projecting out a ceiling season here. Week 9, the night before Halloween, Thursday night football versus the Ravens. There's 0 chance I see them winning this game. Lamar Jackson is really, really good. And the only reason Lamar Jackson is not higher up in the hierarchy is Patrick Mahomes. It's maybe Josh Allen too, but like if you get rid of those two guys, I think he's there and he would probably be the name. But unfortunately, he just came around in a time where Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are already dominating. So we have that. Then you go the following week versus the Buffalo Bills. Now I get it. This is a home game. I get it. It's a day game and everything. But unless I see something that is a drastic improvement, this Dolphins team is not ready to hang with these Buffalo Bills. The team a couple of years ago, I had some hopes, but based on the team last year, no. All right, week 11. Now, you guys can tell me if I'm off on this, but I just don't see a way. I see more scenarios where Mike McDaniel is fired after this game than where the Dolphins are coming out of this with a win. Any advantage that the Dolphins have for this being a home game is completely wiped out because it is in Spain. I don't like the Dolphins in these Europe games. It just doesn't seem to play well to me. But so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think unless there's some major regression from Jaden Daniels, and to be fair, we saw CJ Stroud took maybe a slight step backwards last year. I expect him to take 2 steps forward this year, kind of that sophomore slump. I'm kind of a firm believer that, I would not expect the Commanders. They're not going to take anyone by surprise this year like they did last year. But I still don't see this being a game where the Dolphins are going to be able to be competitive. I can easily see this a game where they're behind 20-0 in the second quarter. And again, things can change, injuries can happen, but based on what I'm seeing, I just don't see. I see way more scenarios where the Dolphins season is completely ruined by week 11 than where we're coming out of this with a victory. I mean, I would say one win out of these 3 weeks would be a huge victory for the Dolphins. If we could win one of weeks 9, 10, 11, I'll be happy. If we win 2, I'll be shocked and amazed. And if we win 3, then I'll be like legitimately excited. But all right, week 12 is the bye. So fortunately, the Dolphins can't lose against the bye. So that's good. All right, then we go to week 13. I do think that this is a ceiling game where the Dolphins could win at home against the Saints. So I think that is certainly doable. Now, if we're going to project an absolute ceiling season, week 14 at the Jets, it is in December, but it is against the Jets. And so in an absolute ceiling season, I could see them pulling off this victory here. I think it's highly unlikely that they do beat the Jets twice in the season, but because we're talking ceiling, we'll give them that there. The following week, Monday Night Football at the Pittsburgh Steelers, December 15th, cold weather. This is like disaster. Like, I understand the Steelers don't have a quarterback, but they have Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin's job is probably going to be on the line here. I just don't see this. There's no way I see this happening. So we're going to, even in the ceiling season, we give that loss here. And I don't see this one happening either. Week 16, Sunday Night Football. Now, if it's flexed out, there could be some scenarios here, but I'm going to base it off the Sunday Night Football because the Dolphins just don't play well in prime time, and they don't play well in December. It is a home game, but I'm going to just say no way. So, and then if we go here against Tampa Bay at home, I do think that is a game we could win. And so we'll give that a potential there. And then week 18 at the New England Patriots. Again, this will be a hard game to win, but I do believe there are scenarios where the Dolphins could win this game. So I think if everything goes the Dolphins' way, I see, a ceiling season here is 10-6. Now, again, that's assuming everything goes their way. Realistically, I'm still right around the 7-10 because they're going to trip up in some of these games. And, I mean, some of the danger games that I see, week 1 at the Colts, I can definitely see them botching that. I can see them botching either of those, I guess they're both December, January games against the Patriots and Jets. I can see them botching that. I can see the Dolphins botching that Cleveland Browns game And if I want to be hyper optimistic, maybe they could steal that game against the Chargers. But so let's go ceiling. What? I must have missed a game. What game did I miss? Hold on. How do I have 10 and 6? I missed a game. What game did I miss? Let's find out. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 13. 12 is the bye. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so can I just not add? Or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I forgot to add the loss for the Commanders. Sorry. So it should be, let's correct that. Ceiling season should be 10 and 7. My bad. You got to add one more loss from the Commanders game on that. Okay, ceiling season, realistic season. I'll try to be positive here and go 8 and 9. And then we're going to go floor season. I would say you could add probably 3 more losses there. 5 and 12 would be the floor season. That's kind of my initial take here. Now, again, things can change. Injuries can happen to both the Dolphins and other teams. That might change my perspective, but just on the overall. According to ESPN, it says the Dolphins are tied for the 11th easiest schedule in the league. Opponents had a 474 winning percentage. And the first 2 months of the season is where the Dolphins absolutely have to do that. Over-under on wins, at least the initial over-under, is 8.5. And what's the takeaway from ESPN? Basically what I said. Have an opportunity to start hot in the first 2 months of the season with 6 of their first 8 games coming against teams that did not make the playoffs. Neither did the Dolphins, but if they want to prove last season was an outlier, they could build confidence and momentum. Yep. All right. So there's that. And then I've got 5 questions, and then I'll take any of your questions that you guys have. This is question number 1, and this is always going to be the question, and it's unfortunate that this is always the question, but it is the question. Can Tua stay healthy? So can Tua stay healthy? Because I'm positive on the potential of Quinn Ewers for this team, but he will not be ready to be a star quarterback in the league this year. So if Tua goes down, even if Quinn Ewers comes in, like, it's great experience for him, but the season's over if Tua goes down. And we don't even know if Ewers is going to officially break camp with the Dolphins or different things. There's a whole bunch that has to go into it. If Tua does not stay healthy, and I don't mean like can't miss a game here or there, but I'm saying if he misses more than like 1 or 2 games for like little bang up injuries or whatever, this Dolphins team has not proven that they can win without him. And I know there's plenty of Dolphins fans who want to be done with Tua, and I understand that, and I understand why. And I feel some of those same frustrations. But simply put, if Tua is out, this team will not win. The Dolphins' only chance to win this season is with Tua. And so whether you think he's the long-term solution or not on this team, a healthy Tua is our only chance to win games. That's my take. So can he stay healthy? I mean, there's no way to project this. There's too many variables, but that's the major question for the overall. And Tua at his best is a top 10 quarterback in the league, but injured and not playing, obviously you're not a top 10 quarterback if you're not available, right? The best ability is availability, and this team struggles significantly when Tua's not in there. In fact, we can go back to last season where they lost multiple games where they just simply, when Tua was out, they had no firepower. This team is just impotent without Tua starting at the quarterback. Okay, number 2. This is a huge question. Can the Dolphins start strong? I think the Dolphins, if they want to make a playoff run, have to start 6-2 or better. There's 2 losses that are acceptable to me in the first 8 games, and that is the Chargers game and the Bills game. Now, if they beat the Chargers and they slip up somewhere else, maybe 5-3 or something like that. But 5-3 or 6-2, that they have to start the season 5-3 and 6-2. Because if they don't, then I don't think there's any chance that they're going to be able to bounce back from the middle of the season and then their late game cold games that they have to do. So they have 3 games now. Like I said, the benefit to this schedule is the Dolphins never leave the Eastern time zone the entire season. other than for that Madrid-Spain game, right? But for all the United States games that they're playing, they never leave the Eastern time zone. So that's really good. But I still think that middle weeks 9 through 11 is just absolutely dreadful for them. There are 95% of the scenarios I run in my head involves the Dolphins going 0-3 there. And I legit mean if they can win one of those games against the Ravens, Bills, or Commanders in Spain, if they can win one of those three, that's a huge victory. But again, if they go 5-3 and then they win one of those, they're going to come out of that 6-5 with road trips to New York, Pittsburgh, and New England, all in December and January. And that's really scary, having to win on the road in cold weather for the Dolphins. 3 games they'd have to win, and they're probably gonna have to win all 3 of those. So the Dolphins have to get off to a good start. All right. Next question, which ties into that, and both these next questions tie into this, because these are narratives around the Dolphins that the Dolphins simply need to break, that they haven't been able to break. So question number 3 I have is this: can the Dolphins win in prime time and in Europe? Now, the Dolphins have won some Europe games and they have won some primetime games. But if you look at the primetime games that they're facing, you've got at the Bills, right? So you're facing a great team. You have at the Jets, which is a rivalry game. You have versus the Ravens, even though it's at home, a great team. Versus the Commanders in Europe, a great team as of last year. The Steelers, at the Steelers, which is a cold weather game, and we'll tie that in a second. And then potentially versus the Bengals. So you have 6 games that are currently scheduled to be either primetime or Europe games. And these are the games that, in general, the Dolphins just are bad at. They just tend to not show up in primetime. Now, is there a chance that culture is or has been changed? Of course. And that's why we're going to play the game. Is going to play it out on the field. For viewing purposes, it's very exciting. But for the purposes of seeing this team thrive, that's a huge question. If they can't win primetime games in the Europe game, that's 6 losses right away. Like based on that, and then if you add cold weather games, which is the next question. So can the Dolphins win late in the season and in the cold? So you got 6 primetime games plus 2 more cold weather games. And I'm just being generous that, none of the September, October games will be truly cold weather, but you have at the Jets and at the Patriots. If they can't win any of those games, that's 8 losses. And I doubt that 9-8 makes it in. And that's assuming that you don't slip up anywhere else. That's assuming you beat the Chargers. That's assuming you can beat the Browns on the road. That's assuming that, you can basically sweep the whole NFC South, which I would love to do that. But as Midnight has assured me, that's not going to happen because the Panthers are going 17-0. So, and then that all leads, by the way, there's a good comment here, Midnight, so I'll read that. Actually really like you all drafting a quarterback as well. You need a competent backup. Might as well get him on a rookie salary. And I agree. Once you got to the 3rd round, I wasn't opposed to Shedeur Sanders. And I called the Quinn Ewers pick when we covered it live. And I do like it. It's a low risk. I like that he gets to sit for an entire year. Ideally, he gets to sit for an entire year and do that and learn under Tua. Like Tua still is you can rank him wherever you want to rake him among the paradigm of quarterbacks, but he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the world right now. One of the top 30 quarterbacks in the entire world to be playing and starting in the NFL. That's just the reality of what it is. And he's a great quarterback to learn under. Whether or not he can ever fulfill maybe the ceiling of his career, that's to be determined. But he has a great work ethic, and he cares, and he has heart, and he has all the things you want to see in a quarterback. He's a good communicator. He's a good leader. There's a lot about Tua that there is to like. And so I do like the fact that Ewers is going to get the chance to learn under him. We'll try to go at least 3-1 in the division for you. We'll try. All right. And then all those questions ultimately leads to question number 5. Which is this the last chance for McDaniel, Greer, Tua, Hill, and company? My gut says yes. My gut says if the Dolphins do not win a playoff game this year, that this thing is just going to be blown up. Trade, they would trade Tua for a 5th-round draft pick or 4th-round draft pick, trade Tyreek Hill for a 3rd-round draft pick. They just, maybe keep Waddle and Quinn Ewers and, some of the young guys, obviously build your line out. But I feel like this is potentially the make or break season. Unfortunately, as Midnight, with the Rockies, the Dolphins are in the same position. You can't fire your owner. So you're stuck with the owner till he sells. And that means that we're probably stuck in this scenario for now until we get new ownership. That's what we've got. But I really do think that this is probably the last chance with this group, unless they can win a playoff game. If they can win a playoff game and they can do that, and then there's definite progress forward. And I really do think that there are scenarios where the Dolphins can make the playoffs, lose in the first round, and you could still have everything starting over, because you can say, look, we've done this now 4 seasons in a row in some capacity, falling short of our hopes and expectations. You just got to move, because you got to trade these guys for something. You've got to get picks or something for these guys while they still hold a little bit of value. And then you do the reboot, and you end up tanking 2026, maybe 2027, and then try to be competitive by 2028. So yeah, I do think that this is it, but I don't know. You guys can let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree. But I feel like this group has been together long enough. I feel like the patience has been there, and I get it. Tua's gotten hurt, but ultimately that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, that's what you need. You need the owner to be the owner and take the step back from tinkering and just let the guys do what they need to do. And that's what's been so great watching the Mets revitalization, is that we have an owner who cares, but he allows and he brings in the right personnel, and he allows them to do the things that they want to do. So, all right, so that's what we have about that. We will take any questions and answers you have. If you're watching on replay, feel free to just comment down with any questions you have, and I'll give you my thoughts, my opinions. Or if you're live, you can ask about any other team that you would want to ask about. I'm just going to read a couple of things from this ESPN article. These are not my takes. This is just ESPN's takes. Key stretch, week 9 to 11, which we already highlighted. It's pretty obvious doing that. Bold prediction. This is from ESPN. The Dolphins will finish with a winning record on the road for the first time since 2020. Under McDaniel, Miami owns a 10-16 road record. Here are their opponents on the road: Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Cleveland, Carolina, and then a couple of their division games would be winnable on the road. So, all right, let's see. Anything else? I'm just going to look on some. Let's overreact to the NFL schedule reveal. All right, these are ESPN's overreactions. Again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm just going to read briefly through it. These are ESPN's overreactions. I haven't looked at all the schedules or anything like that. I'll just give the opinion and then the verdict if it was overreaction or not. So opinion 1, the 49ers will cruise back into the playoffs. Verdict, overreaction. For the Giants, Jackson Dart will be the Giants' starting quarterback by November. Not an overreaction. I actually agree there for sure. The Lions' 2-year NFC North title streak will come to an end. Verdict, not an overreaction. Let's see. So who are they thinking is going to take? Is going to be who do they think is going to take over the division? The Packers? I'm just trying to see. Detroit Lions have the toughest road strength of schedule of any team in the Super Bowl era. 667 winning percentage for the road teams that they're facing. Well, I mean, they're saying that their path to a three-peat is daunting, but I can't imagine that you're not going to favor the Bears over the Lions, and I don't think you're going to favor J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings over the Lions. So the prediction is that the Packers will win the division. I mean, maybe, but oh, wow. So don't mind me complaining about Europe games. The Vikings have back-to-back games in Europe this year. in Dublin and in London. It's the first time a team is going to play NFL games consecutive. Sorry, let me reread that. It's the first time a team will play consecutive NFL games in different countries outside the United States. Because they're definitely not flying home in between. Kevin O'Connell told the London reporters it was a kind of a joint decision between the team and the NFL. Yeah, well, that means there's some financial benefit to them, but from a player standpoint, that's horrible. That's horrible from a player standpoint. Sorry. All right. Next overreaction. Lions are more like, well, that's the thing. I haven't looked at the Packers overall, but there's no way that the Bears or the Vikings would be favored to take out the Lions. No way. So basically, the argument is: are the Packers going to finish ahead of the Lions? I like what Dan Campbell is building. I wish Dan Campbell had stayed with the Dolphins because we had him. We had him as an interim head coach, and I liked him when we had him, and we got rid of him. And we've struggled ever since. I can see, to me, Dan Campbell is kind of the next Mike Tomlin of NFL. He's the hard-nosed coach, and he's a player's coach, not in the sense that he's buddy-buddy with them, but he's the player's coach in the sense of been there, done that. I'm going to put all the hard work in with you, and I'm going to be there. So I think that's kind of crazy talk. All right, next overreaction from ESPN. The Cowboys could have a very unhappy holiday season. That's of course that's not an overreaction. This Cowboys team is not showing that they're really any. I have nothing to be excited about with the Cowboys. Doesn't mean they can't put a run together. I mean, I think the one thing that the Cowboys have is I can see some regression from the Commanders. I can see the Giants being a non-factor, but you still have to contend with the Eagles, But it's not like it was a few years ago where you could basically guarantee 4 wins against the Giants and the Commanders every year. Like, no, it's going to be hard. Let's see. Christmas games: Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, and Vikings. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else, any other highlights. You guys have any other questions? I'm just not a firm believer in JJ McCarthy being able to lead the Vikings in year one. I think it's more of we've gotten spoiled the last couple of years with Stroud and Daniels, but I think that's more of an anomaly. And McCarthy does have the benefit that he got to sit and learn last year, even though he was injured. He got to still sit and learn. And I have zero reason to have any faith in the Bears. So, like I said, I don't know enough about the Packers. I'll let Grassi analyze that. But all right, this is from NFL Network, Cynthia Freeland. I'm just going to run through. I'll show this on the screen really quick. These are the win lines provided by Caesars. I'm not advocating betting. I'm just using this for a reference point, just in case you want to have some idea of what the odds are for your team. So these are the odds for over under for wins. Oh, you're good, Midnight. You're good. This is as of 3 p.m. So I don't know if they got early access to the schedule. But anyway, got the Ravens. This is over under for wins. Ravens 11.6, Bills 11.4, Chiefs 11.2. There is zero world where the Chiefs finish third in the AFC. I don't know. I'll run down all straight through. Broncos 9.5, Chargers 9.3, Bengals 9.1, Texans 9. How many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's who they have. That's the Caesars projection is that the Texans are the last team in the playoffs, and Caesars projects that the Dolphins are the first team out. Wow. Wow. Caesars is more positive than I am. I don't know. I guess I have them right around 8 wins, right? Still. What is the plus 800 to win the Super Bowl? Wow. They have the Ravens and the Bills both as better odds over the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Okay, below that, you've got the Steelers at 8.3, the Patriots at 8 wins. That seems high to me. Jaguars at 7.7. Now that feels low because I think you could see a bounce back with Trevor Lawrence this year. Just my gut says Jaguars could bounce back. Colts at 7.6, Raiders 7.4, Jets 6.2, Titans 5.8, Browns 5.6. So, all right, and then if we go, hold on, that's AFC. Hold on, I got to see if I can find an NFC article here. Hold on. Let me see if this article is true here. Yeah, we should have kept Dan Campbell. I agree, Justin. Since Shula, he's the favorite coach we had. Ravens, Bills, Chargers, Broncos. I could see the Chiefs being third in their division this year. Yeah, I mean, from a odds perspective, I just think it's going to mean a lot of money is going to pour in on the Chiefs. Sorry, I'm not finding. Oh, it's a separate tab on the same thing. Sorry. Let me bring up the NFC here. All right. I found it. I found the NFC projections. Yeah, I just think ultimately until the dragon is slayed, the dragon has not been slayed. That's kind of my take on it. So just the same way I never bet against Brady until Brady had retired. I would not be. I don't mean that as like an actual betting, but just in general. I'm never counting the Chiefs out. All right, here are the projected win totals. Top 7 will be the projected playoff teams too here. Eagles with 11 wins, Commanders with 10.2, Lions with 10, 49ers with 9.9, Rams 9.7, Buccaneers 9.7, Packers 9. 3, 4, 5, 6. So they have Packers last team in. Wow. Maybe I should be paying more attention to the Bears, huh? I don't know. They have the first team out of the playoffs is the Bears at 8.9, Vikings at 8.7, Seahawks 8.1, Cardinals 8, Falcons 7.9, Cowboys 7.2, Panthers a flat 7. Giants 5.4, Saints 5.3. That is your NFC. By the way, if you guys want to, I'm not going to read all the details, but this is the article that I just went through. There's 2 tabs at the top, so you can switch from AFC to NFC. I kind of missed it at first, but if you come right here, right under the video, you can switch for AFC or NFC. So if you want to check that out yourself. Yep, 17, not 7. You're close. They're close. They'll get it fixed midnight. Hey, just like in baseball, hope springs eternal. It's the same thing in football. All right, you guys have any other questions? Anything else you want me to look up? Otherwise, I got one other video I've got to record tonight still. So let me know if there's anything else you want to do. If you're watching on replay, please make sure you post your questions down below. Yep, Derrick Henry. I saw that. Derrick Henry got a contract extension. You know, it'll always shift back and forth to whatever you need to shift it to. And running backs made an impact last season, and so now they're going to get paid, and then in a couple of years, they'll all complain about how running backs aren't worth what they're worth, and they'll move on to the next group. But if you're a running back, you better get paid now. Better get paid while the league has swung back towards that position just a little bit more than where it was a couple of years ago. It's not just, but in general, everybody has Saquon Barkley to thank for the reemergence and value of running backs as a financial commodity that teams are willing to pay. My voice is definitely going here. We've been talking for like 4 hours straight almost at this point. Do we trade? I think so. That was my question number 5, Justin, that I put up. So is this the last chance for McDaniel, Greer, Tua, Hill, and company? And I would say the answer is if they do not win a playoff game, then yes. I think then we just trade Tua, Tyreek. If we still have Jalen Ramsey, though I know they're trying to trade him now. I don't think he's been traded yet, but I think you clean house if you don't win a playoff game this year. You have to show some sort of progress forward. So that's my best take on it. That's just what my gut says. And for multiple reasons, because if they don't make the playoffs and Tua is healthy all season, that's a problem. And if they don't make the playoffs because Tua is hurt, that's also a problem. You've got 2 seasons that you can kind of chalk up to, okay, it was injury stuff and it was out of his control. But if you get 3 out of 4 seasons that are ruined because of injury of your quarterback, it's just time to move on. It doesn't mean that he won't get another chance or opportunity somewhere else, because he certainly might. And I certainly believe he will. When Tua is healthy, he's a really good quarterback. Tua record. I was trying to. So here's a stat from Tua. In his first 36 NFL games, which is just over 2 seasons, Tua has 8,015 yards and a 95 passer rating. Like, his career passer rating is 95. But the problem is, we're already 5 years in. We're on year 6. And we're just running out of time. We're just running out of time. Savage, how's it going? Have you looked at the Cowboys schedule yet? Let us know what you think on that. It's just, it's unfortunate, but it's also the nature of sports. As a Mets fan, we have kind of that what could have been with David Wright had he not had his spinal stenosis. I agree. I agree to a certain extent, and yeah, he definitely 0-17. So Midnight thinks the Panthers are going 17-0. Savage Batman thinks the Cowboys are going 0-17. So I get it. I get it with Tua. Some people don't like, but the fact is, there's still a better team with Tua than without Tua right now. I agree with that. I think this is the last year that the Patriots are a pushover. I don't want to say a pushover. I mean, I think they could be a nuisance, but I think this is the last year where, for a while, where you could go in and, if you're an average team, you could feel like you've got a legit chance of winning that game. So 2-15 because you play the Giants. Depends when in the season do you play the Giants, early or late? Because if you catch them early, you're better. The Brady curse. So anyway, it's just a sign. It's football season will be around the corner here. We'll be talking what? like mid-July. So you're talking 8 to 10 weeks, guys. 8 to 10 weeks. Well, you should win week 2 for sure. Week 18, maybe you already have the playoff spot locked up there, Savage. So it won't even matter. But you better win week 2. I do think there'll be a little regression from the Commanders. I just think with more film out on Jaden Daniels, and coordinators have had a lot of time and will have a lot of time to study him. I do think that, and I think just like Stroud kind of took a step back last year, I think Daniels will take a step back. And I don't know if there's any quarterback I expect to really bust out as a rookie. Technically McCarthy's probably, I don't know if he's considered a rookie or not because he was drafted 2 years ago. He would be the one that I could see having some success, but Green Bay and Jerry rolled too. Is that the Thanksgiving game? Over under week 18. Jerry's no fool. I think that Jerry would pull strings to tank some games if he knows the season is lost. He knows how important those high draft picks are. So let's look it up really quick. Let's look up the Cowboys schedule. I'm just going to go off the top of my head here. This is totally, oh my goodness, stop with all the pop-ups, NFL. Week 1 at the Rams, that's probably a loss. Week 2 versus the Ravens, that's a loss. Week 3 versus the Falcons, they could win that. Oh, sorry, that's preseason. All right, sorry, regular season. Week 1 at the Eagles, definite loss. Week 2 versus the Giants, they can win that. Week 3 at the Bears, that's maybe a coin flip. Maybe you give the Bears the edge because they're at home. Week 4 versus the Packers, that's a loss. Week 5 at the Jets, they could win that. Week 6 at the Panthers. Well, there you go. There you go. Both of you guys are, so Midnight's expecting to win there, and Savage is expecting a loss. So there's that. Week 7 against the Commanders, probably a loss. Week 8 at the Broncos, definitely a loss. Week 9 versus the Cardinals, maybe sneak a win there. Week 11 at the Raiders. I know, I'm giving you the win, Midnight. I'm giving you the win there. And don't worry, Savage is expecting 0-17, so you guys are both going to be happy after that game. 17-0. And Savage is 0-17. Week 11 at the Raiders, they could probably pull that one off. Week 12 against the Eagles at AT&T. Now they lose that. Week 13 against the Chiefs, they lose that. Week 14 at the Lions, they lose that. Week 15 at the Vikings, that's a toss-up. Depends on how McCarthy does. Week 16 against the Chargers, maybe toss-up. Week 17 at the Commanders, maybe doesn't matter. Yeah. Oh, there's worlds where I can see this Cowboys team winning 3 or 4 games. They're, 6 or 7 is probably, but you never know. That's why they play the games. So I think 0-17 is a little dramatic there, but all right. Well, I think that's about it for now, and I think we're going to cut it off here because, like I said, I got one more video I got to do. I got to do 3 up and 3 down for baseball. Figure out which 3 teams are on the rise, which 3 teams are on the fall, and go from there. For the record, patrons will have early access to that whenever it's done tonight. So if you are interested in supporting this channel through the Patreon, I will just post the link here again really quick. If you wish to do it, if you don't want to, aren't able to, don't like me, that's fine. Don't feel like you ever have to do it. But I do, for those of you who are patrons, I appreciate it so much. It gives me the opportunity to keep creating content for you, help support my family, and support the stream as well. And so it's there if you wish to do it, and you'll get early access to things. And as we get closer and closer to football season, we'll have more and more football content coming as well. Yep. Appreciate it, Midnight, so much. There is no Mets game tomorrow either. So that works out great. So tomorrow's going to be just mostly a work day. Might try to get in. I've got a couple of long form videos that are in progress for this channel and my other channel. So I'm going to try to get some of that stuff done, get some eBay listings done, and get a day off from baseball. Let my voice rest up, because man, is it it's crunchy here tonight for sure. Well, that's what we got. So just as a quick little overall, this is what I got for the Dolphins. As their ceiling season is 10-7, their realistic season 8-9, their floor season is 5-12. So if you missed any of those or that breakdown, you can go back to the beginning of the video and do that. Appreciate you all. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I'm still hopeful, still going to be cheering, absolutely. And I hope the Dolphins can surprise me and a whole bunch of the fans. And most importantly, I hope Tua stays healthy. I really do. I don't want to see, it's not fun seeing any player get hurt, but with Tua dealing with what he's dealt with, it's scary. It's not fun. And I hope he can stay healthy throughout the whole season for sure. Appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, let's go Miami, baby. Talk to you guys all soon. Have a great night.